Question 23. Political candidates' speeches are loaded with promises and with expressions of good intention. But one must not forget that the politician's purpose in giving these speeches is to get themselves elected. Clearly, then, these speeches are selfishly motivated and the promises made in them are unreliable. Okay, first step, argument or facts. Clearly, we have an argument, structural indicator here, clearly. Our conclusion is that these speeches are selfishly motivated and the promises made in them are unreliable. And how do we know that? Well, the main premise here is that the purpose in giving these speeches is to get themselves elected. Clearly a flawed argument, right? Just because we have an ulterior motive, right? Or a reason for making these promises that is clearly selfishly motivated, that does not mean that they're unreliable. That's kind of a jump. It's possible that, yeah, they are made for selfish reasons, but that the politician actually ends up following through on it for whatever reason, maybe because he wants to be the first politician in the history of man to have actually done what they said they were going to do. So clearly a flawed argument, and you notice when we get to the question stem, just in case you weren't aware, which of the following most accurately describes a flaw in the argument above? Describes a flaw, errors of reasoning question. So looking for the answer choice that captures the flaw that we've just discussed, the jump from the fact that they're selfishly motivated to somehow making them unreliable. So let's take a look here at A. The argument presumes, without providing justification, that if a person's promise is not selfishly motivated, then that promise is reliable. And again, we know if introduces sufficient, so if you're not selfishly motivated, then you are reliable. But is that what this argument is doing? You notice no. If anything, they're saying that if you're selfishly motivated, then you're unreliable. But A is just negating that statement, so A clearly doesn't apply, and A would be out. B, the argument presumes, without providing justification, that promises made for selfish reasons are never kept. Very popular answer choice. But the problem with B is that it never said that they're never kept. It said that they are unreliable. So if you notice, we'll hold B momentarily because a lot of students pick B. We'll come back to it when we compare it to the correct answer. C, the argument confuses the effect of an action with its cause, automatically out. We do not have a cause and effect argument. Which brings us to D. The argument overlooks the fact that a promise need not be unreliable just because the person who made it had an ulterior motive for doing so. And you notice D is the correct answer. It even says unreliable, whereas B said promises are never kept, not what the passage was talking about. So B would be eliminated, and you notice D again captures exactly what we were talking about. Just because there was an ulterior motive, in this case hoping to get elected, to make the promise doesn't necessarily mean that that promise is unreliable. So D would be the correct answer. And again, just making sure here, checking E, the argument overlooks the fact that a candidate who makes promises for selfish reasons may nonetheless be worthy of the office for which he or she is running. And you notice the problem with E, this is not about the worthiness of the candidates, but rather about the promises that they make while campaigning and then being unreliable promises because they are selfishly motivated.